In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, action. Welcome to the Soul Greatness Podcast, where we help you tune into your soul so that you can elevate your greatness. And I'm super duper excited to have Mrs. Sara Robinson in the building. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Yay. So I'm going to read a little quick bio of you for those of you that don't know her and her work. So for the last decade as a mental skills coach, Sara Robinson has helped individuals change the way they think and feel to create positive behavioral changes. She is the author of Choose You, here we go, a guided self-care journal made just for you, and Self-Care for Moms coming out in April.
Yep.
We're going to definitely talk about that. Sara regularly speaks about the importance of balance and self-care at events and conferences, including the Watermark Women's Conference and the Mom Project Summit.
Yeah.
Her blog, Get Mom Balanced, getmombalanced.com, aims to support busy working moms to find balance and time for self-care and helps moms develop the mental skills that they need to thrive. She has a master's degree in sports psychology and works from home as a freelance writer, content manager, and a mental skills coach. She is also the mom of 2 boys and lives in the Bay Area. And of course, we went to high school together, and we've connected in so many ways. And some people don't know, she was like one of my first guests, if not the first guest at one of my first workshops. So thank you so much.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's so funny to sit here and listen to someone talk about all the things you've done.
Just to get it started, how did it all happen, Sara? How did you start, getting into this movement of creation for all the great things you've achieved?
Yeah, so one of the things that was not in my bio that is that I went to NYU for college. So New York University, I studied theater. And so in some ways that's where it started, but I don't do anything related to theater now, but that's what I was interested in high school. I was also interested in psychology, so I studied psychology. And when I was done with college, I realized I don't really want to act. And as you know, you have to be really driven to do that, right? You got to have a lot of passion. You got to be energetic about it. And I just wasn't, which I think is normal, right? You're 21, 22. You don't want to do the same things you did at 17, 18. Right. So
let me stop you real quick. So I got to say, Sara, in high school, she was doing theater and she'd get these leading roles. And, I was the athlete. I was into football and I was just like, wow, that's so cool. And I've always wanted to do theater. So I really looked up to you when you were doing that. And when you went to NYU, I'm like, that's not easy. You were part of the inspiration on why I got into theater. Random fact. Keep on going.
So random fact, flash forward 2 years later when Romeo went to UCLA, I was jealous because that was the school I wanted to go to. I mean, I was very thrilled about NYU.
Right.
It's a great school for theater, but UCLA was my top choice at the time. So I was like, this dude who was an athlete who didn't even do theater in high school is now at UCLA. He got it figured out. So anyway, we go way back.
So we inspire each other.
Yes.
So
I was done with theater, though, unfortunately, when I was done with college and wanted to study psychology. Decided to move back to California where friends and family were, and I stumbled into the field of sports psychology, which many people haven't heard of. And if you know me in real life, you know I don't really like sports, ironically. So they're like, what do you mean, sports psychology? So it's the mental aspects of sport and performance. So staying calm, staying positive, dealing with adversity, focusing, bouncing back from mistakes. And really, all of those skills are life skills as well. So when I finished my master's degree, I started working with athletes, and I was really drawn to working with kids and older teenagers. So I've worked with junior high school athletes, high school, and college, and helping them develop their mental skills. But those are life skills, right? How do you calm yourself down before a test, or asking a girl or a boy out, or, how do you reach your goals? And so that's something I was always interested in and working on. And I realized when I became a mom that these really are life skills that you have to tap into to survive life, because having kids is great and it's also real hard. So I was really using those skills myself, and also realizing that the work I was doing with athletes was great. I had also worked at a university in a sports psychology program, and I wanted to have more time for myself and more flexibility. So I started a blog, and my goal was to kind of teach these skills to moms because they really are life skills. And that just sort of all shifted into eventually a first book deal, a second book deal, and some jobs that I never would have predicted that I would have had
Right.
10 plus years ago.
Wow. So, as you are along this journey, and let's, get into the topic of many different topics, but the first one being self-care. Why is that important?
Because if we don't take care of ourselves, we basically can't do anything else. Right.
Right.
And I think a lot of times people think of self-care, especially if you've got any moms listening, we hear the word self-care a lot, and it's like, oh, I don't have time for that. And you think of it's like these big fancy things like trips or massages, and that's nice, but that's not all that self-care is. And really self-care is anything that helps you be your best version of yourself. And it's important for everyone to practice self-care. Doesn't matter your age, kids should practice self-care. I think back to my 20s, and I probably did a lot of self-care, but I was just living life. I wasn't like, oh, this is my self-care. I'm just like going to the movies and going out to eat and lounging and sleeping in, and it's just life.
Right.
But we need to take care of ourselves. And if we don't, we can't be our best at anything else that we're doing. Work life, personal life, relationships, whatever it is, you can't give as much as you can if you're taking care of yourself. It's that saying of like, you can't pour from an empty cup.
That's good. So what are some things that you would advise for people to do to create that self-care for them? Because I know everybody works differently, but what are your 2 cents on that?
Yeah. So I think first there's 6 main categories of self-care that are important to know about. I think a lot of times it's these kind of big indulgent activities, and those are great, but there's social self-care, mental, emotional, practical, physical, and spiritual self-care. And so everyone has their own needs, but probably all 6 types are going to be important for every person. So really identifying what's most important to you. If you're really spiritual, you might need more spiritual self-care. If you're an introvert, you might not need as much social self-care. You might think that's not important to me, but maybe it's coffee with a friend where you connect one-on-one in a really calm environment. So making sure that, you know what's important to you, and then making the time for it. I think that's the big thing, is really making time for it and being deliberate. As a mom, I do a lot of what's called practical self-care. So practical self-care is like that to-do list that you do. And a lot of times it's just like, oh, this is the stuff I have to do, right? It's just the tasks. I just have to check it off. But if you really look at it like, no, these are things that help me, help my family. When I have done the groceries, I'm in a better place because I have healthy snacks that make me feel good. So that's now my physical self-care. When I've done the laundry, I now can get dressed in the morning, and my family can too. So there's these things that are kind of more to-do list like that actually can be our self-care. So figuring out what do I need to do to feel my best, and then making sure that you make time for it. And also remembering you don't need an hour. You can practice self-care in 5 minutes by doing a gratitude journal, by lighting a candle and breathing, by stepping outside and connecting with nature. You can get this self-care in small bursts, and sometimes that's all we can do.
That's right.
So fit it in throughout your day, because we all have 5 minutes. If you don't, you're on your phone a lot. Like really, that's what it is. You're probably wasting a lot of time somewhere. So you can find the time.
Right. Where I do my self-care is in the morning. Now, I'm an early riser, and I know I'm very aware not everybody is.
I'm not.
So, I'm big on like morning rituals. Do you have one?
I don't. I wish I did.
Because I know, again, you're a mom.
I like to blame a lot on my kids. I just...
dang it, kids, I didn't do my morning ritual because of you.
Yeah, so... for me, I have more like a routine.
There you go. So let's talk about your routine.
So regularly what we do, it's more like the practical tasks, which I wouldn't even say those are self-care in the morning. It's just like, let's get you up and out of the house. Because for me, even though, I could probably spend like the 5 minutes breathing or, like getting outside, I prefer just to get them out of the house, to be honest with you. Thankfully, they're at an age where I've got a first grader and a preschooler. So like they go out of the house in the morning to school, and then I can get to work. So for me, I really enjoy work. It helps me, feel good. Some of my work is creative, so that feeds a certain part of me. And then once I kind of have that checked off, then I like to go to the gym in the afternoon. My kids are in a lot of activities. So that's my physical self-care. My kids are in a lot of activities, so I always have a book with me. So then I get to do a lot of mental, sometimes it's emotional self-care as well. So I'm doing more fitting in of things during the day. And then at the end of the day is when I tend to do more because my kids are in bed by 7:30, 8
Oh,
o'clock.
okay.
And then I can kind of decompress. So then it might be, checking more things off the list. Like, again, a lot of practical self-care in my world. But, I can just sit and breathe. I can do some journaling if I'm into it. I'm trying to get back into this crafting. My poor second kid, I've got a needlepoint of like his birth stats that he's 3.5 and I still haven't done. And my other one I did like on maternity leave. So I'm trying to get back into more of that kind of self-care. Right. So for me, it's more at the end of the day, but I'm trying to like sprinkle it in.
Yeah, that just goes on to show like I really promote and preach. I'm all about the morning, but it's not for everybody. And like for you, you have the practical things and then you have that time at the end of the day. Yeah. So for those that are listening and wanting to do some self-care, it doesn't have to be an hour. It could be 5 minutes. It could be, spread throughout the day, so forth and so on.
Yeah. And I think for anyone whose life feels hectic, again, for me, my life feels hectic because of kids, but life is hectic for a lot of different reasons, general, is to think about those times in your day where it does feel hectic and where can you insert something small and meaningful? Because again, you only need 5 minutes. So if you tend to be stressed getting out of the house, you don't need to get up an hour early. Can you get up 10 or 15 minutes early? Right. Can you maybe even put your clothes out the night before so that the morning isn't as stressful? Can you set your coffee maker ahead of time so the coffee's ready so that you have the 5 minutes to go outside? If you know that you've got a very stressful job, can you go outside in the middle of your day and just take a walk or close the door to your office and listen to a podcast midday? Find those moments where you tend to feel stressed and just take some time for yourself. And then also try to plan in the longer activities, take the hour here and there. But again, it doesn't have to be the massage. Meals out are great, but it's looking at what are those needs. If you're feeling really disconnected from people, doing a social activity, getting out there with your friends or calling somebody. If you're feeling really like mentally depleted, how can you, stimulate yourself? I think, if you're a mom who's not working, I can't imagine that because I feel like I would just be mentally like in kid zone all day. So, doing a puzzle or reading, like something that makes you kind of feel like, oh, I'm stimulated again.
So what inspired you to create the Get Mom Balanced blog?
So it's interesting. It actually started with a couple of friends of mine.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it did. Because we all came from different professional avenues and wanted to support moms. And so the idea was that Get Mom Balanced was kind of like this collective of moms with a professional background where we could sort of give advice and support moms in life. And I quickly found out that I consider myself a writer, so that was easy for me. Yeah. And so I quickly found out that my two other friends are not writers and didn't like the idea of blogging. So if you want to start a blog, you kind of have to like writing, just side note. Or get a really good ghostwriter. Yeah. But so, it didn't work out. So, but then we still had the URL and I was like, well, good thing I like this idea of Get Mom Balanced. It really resonated for me. And for me, it was two things. It's like Get Mom Balanced, which I think is like the term, if you're not watching in video, I just put air quotes around mom balanced. So like Mom Balanced is this idea that it's not going to be totally balanced, right? Which I think is true in general. Yeah. But as a mom, it's like, oh, everything, if I work hard enough, it's all going to feel okay. Well, it's probably not. Like life is just chaotic and there's more activities than you want, or there's just more stuff. So Get Mom Balanced is like recreating this idea of what balance means as a mom, but then also like get you as the mom more balanced in life. And so through kind of these mental skills that I taught to athletes, the idea was like, well, let's teach moms how to kind of quiet that inner negative voice or be more confident in themselves or calm down when they're going to yell at their children, which is something I've had to work really hard at because I'm a bit fiery at times. I'm still working on that. So these are life skills that I wanted to kind of help give to moms. Yeah.
You brought up, just people in general will have that inner negative dialogue. Yes. What would you say are a couple of things people can do to, replace that, remove that, just be mindful of that?
So there's a couple things. So first of all, it's normal. I mean, our minds are very impressive.
I'm so glad you're saying that. It is a very normal thing.
Because I think it is. And I think, there are times where it skews to too much or too extreme, and then you kind of need to get some outside support. But for all of us, it's normal to doubt yourself. It's normal to feel like you're not good enough or to question what you're doing. So that internal voice, it's normal. And what I think is interesting is that, we also have that positive voice in there, but we don't pay attention to it or we don't give it enough weight. Right. So first of all, it's noticing it, because you can't make any change until you notice it. right? So you have to pay a little bit of attention. And then there's kind of a pattern that you can use. So when you notice it, you want to tell yourself to stop or knock it off or don't do that. So it's called a cue. So it's basically something you're reminding yourself. You can use a visual cue. So like I have a P on my hand for podcasts because I didn't want to forget that I had a podcast today. So you can have a visual reminder. So maybe it's like a smiley face, right? Reminding you, like when I see that, I think more positively. Okay. So if you're like, oh, this podcast is going to be terrible, I'd be like, stop. You're ready. Yep. So stop is the cue. The negative thought is like, oh, this podcast is going to be terrible. What am I going to say? What if I mess up? Stop. Knock it off. And then you replace it with something. And so this falls under the umbrella of positive thinking, which for some people is too like cheerleadery, like you can do this. Yeah. And I know you're all about like the positivity.
All about it, but there's so much power in the thought.
There is. And I think it's good to be positive, but I think if you're too like cheerleadery, sometimes it feels disingenuous. And so being really logical with yourself can also be a form of positive thinking. Like, you know what? You've done this before. It's just you and Romeo having a conversation, right? So I'm very logical with myself. I can throw in some encouragement.
Still,
like I can do it. It will be okay. So a calming thought can also be positive thinking. So that's basically the new pattern we want to try and create. We need to sort of rewire our brain to do that. We notice the negative thought.
We have the power to do so.
Yes, exactly. But you have to be deliberate and you have to work hard at it. So it's like notice the negative thought, tell yourself to stop, and then replace it. And don't get frustrated when the negative thought comes back up because it will. Because our brains are just really annoying like that. Like we just keep going back. And I've had people say, well, what if I say something positive, but it doesn't feel true? Well, you know what? So what if it doesn't feel true? Because your negative thought is probably also not true. So if you're going to lie to yourself, give yourself a positive and helpful lie instead of, the lie that is negative and making you feel bad.
Right.
So so it's kind of the pattern that people can get into. There's also the practice of mindfulness, which is just more like noticing and then getting back in the present. So sort of this thought stopping idea is more like noticing and changing, whereas if you practice more mindfulness, it's like acknowledging and not judging and moving on. So those are two sort of distinct ideas that can hopefully help you, but both are a practice and a new habit that you have to create.
Awesome.
Or try to create.
So one of the things you brought up earlier in the practice of self-care is journaling. Yes. And we have this journal here.
Yes, I didn't do that on purpose.
I know.
Perfect
Here
segue.
You go. Choose you a guided self-care journal made just for you. So again, where the inspiration came from. It's so colorful.
Isn't it pretty? I can't take credit. I can't take credit for that. I did not design it, but I love how it turned out.
But it all came from a thought, and you shared what you shared, and
so it's
designer did their thing.
Yeah, so it all sort of happened because I have a blog. I was really fortunate that an editor reached out to me, which I was like, these things don't happen. People work really hard for book deals. So I got to say, I worked for it because of the groundwork that I had laid, but to get this, I didn't feel like I had to work hard for it. I had to sell myself once they reached out to me. But so this idea was brought to me of a self-care journal. And I know I talk a lot about being a mom, but this is not for moms. Like they were like, don't talk about being a mom. I was like, can I say something about kids? Nope, nothing.
So it's very general.
Nothing about being a mom. So I think it skews for females because it's like bright and girly. But I mean, I don't think that it's not
limited.
Yeah, I don't think it's specifically for even women, even though that was our target. But so it's got a chapter on what self-care is and why it's important. It talks a little bit more about those 6 different types. And then it gives you a way to track because it's easier to commit to things once you've written them down and you're more likely to follow through. Also, the journaling element of self-care is going to help you realize what works for you because there's a little place in here, I think, let's see, where you can say, today's takeaway, make this a regular activity. This is great for special occasions. Give this another try, or this isn't for me. So you can kind of
noticing
remember.
what works for you and what doesn't. And it's like, okay, I thought this was going to work for me, but maybe not.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I thought yoga was great. I had this idea that it was going to be magical, and then I was miserable. So maybe don't try that again. Or maybe give it a try on another day. Right. So it kind of helps you learn more about what works for you. There's also a place where you can check off, how you were feeling before, during, and after to learn more about the effects of that self-care. So it's been.
Where can people find it?
So Amazon, Barnes and Noble, it should be in there. Yeah. If you're on the Target website, you can't get it in the Target stores. I was really bummed about that.
But you can get it on their website.
That was a big deal for me.
That's a very big deal.
But you could get it on the Target website. I totally freaked out when I saw that. So if you're shopping for something on Target or Amazon, throw that in your cart.
Oh, it's definitely cool. And then we got the Self-Care for Moms coming out on April 9th.
Yes, it's coming out soon.
Yes. So
so that was not necessarily a follow-up, but I pitched something else to my publisher, and they're like, well, no, we don't want to do that, but we're thinking about a book of self-care for moms. And I thought, well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Let's do that. So that one was really fun. It was a lot more content. It's a lot more of my voice in it, which was nice. It is specifically for moms. So we're able to talk about the realities of, you might be doing yoga at home and your kid is going to try to crawl on top of you or under you, or, that this is really what happens when you're a mom trying to practice self-care. And what I love about this book, and I can't take credit for this, the publisher came to me with this idea too, is they said, we want to break it down into different time frames. So we want to do the activities that fit in 5 minutes, in 15, in 30, in an hour, in 2 to 4. And then what I labeled the hashtag goals section of like, if you have a day or a weekend, or go big and go away for a week.
Yep.
And so the book also talks about how to make those things happen. It's got practical ideas, like have a self-care meeting with your family. And I think this is great, even if you're not a parent, but if you've really decided, you know what, I'm going to make more time for myself and my self-care, sit down with your partner or the important people in your life and just be like, hey, listen, this is what's happening. This is why I'm making myself more of a priority. And here's what you can expect. Right. So if my door's closed before 7:30, don't come in because I'm journaling or I'm praying or I'm just breathing and mentally preparing to deal with you for today. Or I really have decided I need to get in better shape physically. So I'm going to be going to the gym after work. So can you please take on making meals? So, you can kind of set the stage to get your self-care going.
Oh, that's really good. It's again, a reminder of it's okay to create boundaries for yourself, because people are always going to be wanting to be a part of you or want you to do in this, something in this schedule of yours and so forth and so on.
Yes. I think boundaries are so important. I'm glad you brought that up, because I know you're also such a big supporter of like, say yes, right? And seize the day and go for it. And I think that's so important, but we also have to
power of no.
Yes. We have to be willing to say no. And I think that's a message that gets lost a lot of the time, of like, 100%. Say yes, go for it. Because if you say yes to everything, inadvertently you're saying no to other things, and you're not bringing your best self to the things you say yes to. So you really have to be willing to say no. And I don't mind saying no to people. I'm pretty good at it. It's still uncomfortable for me at times. But I know that's something that's so hard for people. So this is a line you can borrow, is if someone asks you, especially like face to face, be like, ooh, I have to check my schedule. Let me get back to you. And then send them a text or an email, so you don't have to say that no face to face.
Right. So important. I'm all about that. And, along this journey of you being an accomplished woman, being a mom, I know there are, different decisions that are constantly being made. And so with that said, what would you say is the most difficult decision you've had to make to pursue your destiny?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. Most difficult decision. I think just deciding that I was going to do something different and feeling okay with it, because, so I mentioned this briefly, but so when I got my degree in sports psychology, I ended up working in the university that I got my degree from. I started as an adjunct professor. I then oversaw our nonprofit. I ended up getting a contract to work there more. Like, I was on this train that just kept going, and it was secure. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep riding this out. And then I got a contract. Things changed in the university. I got a contract that was a year. I'm like, I'm just going to keep going. And then I assumed that would renew, and it didn't. And then they were like, do you want to do this other thing? And I was like, no. You know what? This ended for a reason. I'm going to do something else. So I think that was the hardest decision, though, to trust that I was going to figure it out, and also financially too, not just work-wise.
Trust that.
But just trust that it was going to be okay, and that I would fill my time in a way that was meaningful to me, but also helped pay my family's bills. I mean, to be perfectly honest, right? Like, a lot of us have bills we have to pay. But I could have probably continued to pursue that and turned it into something else at the university, because it was safe and I knew it and it was consistent. But I was like, no, I'm not gonna. The train stopped. Yeah. And then I realized, I was like, ooh, I was on this train for a while, and I probably should have gotten off, and I didn't. I just kept going. So I just had to make the decision to trust that and go with it, and
that's so good.
Run with it.
Because we get so caught up in the comfort zone, like, oh, we could do it, but there are other miracles or other opportunities that that can be there, or that you want to like just take that leap, but we don't. But just by saying no, again, the power of no, is going to. And
I was lucky, I think, because I sort of was saying no to something else. Like, the thing that I had been saying yes to was taken away from me, so I couldn't just continue to say yes to that. Right. And so I think it's harder in that situation, right, where you're still on that train and it's still moving and you maybe see other opportunities. But, well, maybe, no. So it's harder when that's happening. So I was sort of in a position where I was forced to make some sort of decision.
Yeah.
So this was easier to make at that time.
Right.
But I know it's hard for people to make a big change in life.
And I think, just to piggyback on that, there are those decisions where it's like, should I do this or that? It's like, it's going to feel comfortable, but just tune in, check in with yourself. Maybe, it's not going to make sense to everybody, but obviously you want to check in with important people. But at the end of the day, like this journal says, choose you, choose you, yes, choose other, but choose you.
You can choose other people too, but don't forget to choose you. And I mean, I think that's what it comes down to, right? Is when life just keeps going and going, you kind of forget about yourself a lot of the times because you're just doing things for 100%. Other people and you're an afterthought and you need to be as big of a priority as the other things.
Yeah, don't be an afterthought.
Yeah, don't make yourself an afterthought. What's up with that?
Cool. So I'm going to go a little bit deeper into a little conversation here. What do you believe is the purpose of life?
Oh, jeez.
We went, boom. All right, let's ground that a little bit. Just, in a couple sentences, like, what does it mean to you? It's all about the soul and greatness.
At this point in life, I feel like the purpose in life is to raise good human beings that can do better than
beautiful
I did and that we can collectively do. I mean, because this world is pretty... So I really hope that like my kids can, and this is not to put people down, but just can help to do better and can be good people. Like that's 100%. What I want to do. I want to raise good people who are happy and well-adjusted. And, it all feels like a tall order a lot of the times, but I want to help them be good people. So that's what I feel right now. Like the purpose of life is to raise my kids to do well and to do right in the world.
Awesome.
Oh, that's so much pressure.
No pressure. What do you know for sure?
Ooh, that I love my kids. That I'm not going to forget my husband. I talk about my kids a lot. That I love my husband. And that in the work that I do, I'm really good at a lot of it.
Amen.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, that's what I know for sure.
Last question around that. What do you think the secret is to a happy life?
Oh, I think one secret is there's not one secret.
There you go. That's good. Come on, let's be real.
So there's probably many.
And again, it's for you.
Secrets. I think and I'm not always good at this, but try not to get too caught up in the things that don't matter and just focusing in on...
Yes!
I got it right.
You got it right. That's the secret, yo. Yes. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, just not getting too caught up in things. And I'm not good at this. I can't always practice what I preach.
Practice.
It really is. I find myself getting caught up in, the things that I wish I could have done or what other people are doing or, all sorts of stuff or my own negative thoughts. And just really focusing in on what's important, which is not to be self-centered, but like it's you, it's what's around you, it's the people that you come in contact with, it's, the work that you do, it's making good choices in the world, it's, doing the things that sort of speak to your character and how you want to be. And so, that's the secrets.
That's the secrets.
One of them.
The rest of them are coming out in the book
Stay
called SelfCare for Moms. All right, let's get into a rapid fire Q&A.
No.
You ready?
No.
Just say yes.
No.
Yes
I told you I'm really good at saying no. I actually might say no too often. Like my default often is no. And then I'm like, well, maybe. Let me think about that.
Maybe. All right, here you go.
Okay, yes.
Describe yourself in 3 words.
Ooh, funny. Tired.
Let's be real.
3. Funny, tired, loving.
Oh. What's your go-to order at your favorite hometown restaurant?
Oh gosh, it would have to be Starbucks, and it's a chai tea latte. I know that's technically not a restaurant, but you'll find me at many local Starbucks ordering iced chai tea lattes with an extra pump of chai.
There you go.
This is not very rapid fire. Are my answers supposed to be rapid?
This is perfect.
Okay.
This is perfect. We're in flow. What's your favorite word?
Oh, literally. Literally. It's
Oh,
my
literally?
favorite.
I thought you were going to say it's literally blank.
No, apparently I don't feel like it's my favorite word, but my husband gets on my case because I say literally
That's so
a lot,
funny.
but I literally mean that things are literal. And so I'm using it appropriately. And I want people to understand literally, this is what I mean. And my 6-year-old has picked it up and he says it a lot too. So it's my fave. I also like F-bombs. I just have to say, I didn't drop any here, but
I'm surprised.
I'm trying.
Here we go. Who knows? We still have a
We're
few
not
minutes
done
left. What's your least favorite word?
Oh, I don't think I have a least favorite, but I'm really, I don't like any words that are like mean towards other people. Ones that are like clouded and like, oh, it's funny or it's appropriate. I don't like any of those. And I will put you in your place if you use them. So there's not one. There's a bucket full.
What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Creatively is Starbucks. I don't know why. Sitting there, I get stuff done. Like I can be focused. I can write up a storm. Most of this was written at a Starbucks. Most of the other book was written at Starbucks. But I think just time for myself really is all of those. And as a parent, you don't get a lot of that.
Yeah.
So mostly time and Starbucks.
What turns you off?
Oof, being yelled at by small humans. Having to repeat the same question again and again and again, and not being listened to. And so I find when adults do that to me in my life, like if I have to repeat myself again, I get angry real quick because
What'd you say? I'm just kidding.
He did that on purpose. This is not rapid fire anymore.
Yeah,
I'm explaining my answers. Anyway, I don't like it when people don't listen to me. FYI.
A book you would recommend?
Ooh, speaking of yeses, The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes.
I haven't read that.
Oh, it's good. It's all about how she got out of her comfort zone for a year by saying yes because she was someone who said no. And so if you don't know, Shonda Rhimes is, Shondaland and Grey's Anatomy and all those TGI.
I saw that.
Yeah, it's a good book. And if you do the audiobook, it's read by her, which is fun.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Best piece of advice that you've ever received?
I have a terrible memory. This is not the advice I received, but I have a terrible memory.
Best piece of advice. You have a terrible memory.
So write it down.
Yeah.
That would have been advice. No.
Or one of the best pieces.
Oh gosh. This is not rapid fire. Go for it. I don't know. It's so generic, but I can't. Yeah. I'm on the spot here. I can't come up with anything else.
Quote. One of your favorite quotes.
I really stick by you can't pour from an empty cup. Like I have to.
I really
and
like
I don't,
that.
And I
that
don't
was
know.
One of my biggest
I think
takeaways
it's one
from
of
this conversation.
I think it's anonymous who said that, but that is one of my favorites because it's just a constant reminder of like you got to put your own oxygen mask on first, right? Like you got to take care of yourself to be able to take care of everybody. And again, I'm a mom, so I'm taking care of a lot of people. But even if you're not a parent, you do a lot of things, and it's easy to overextend yourself. So yeah, you can't pour from an empty cup. Oh, and I also like Just Keep Swimming. Dory from is that from Finding Nemo or Finding Dory? I don't know which one technically that's from, but that's my other that I repeat regularly. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming.
Amen.
So thank you, Dory.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Professional dancer.
There you
I knew the answer really quickly.
I was just like, that's rapid fire.
I just had to work myself into saying that publicly.
Yeah. All right. So last word.
Wait, I want to clarify, not like a pole dancer.
I don't know.
Like in music videos.
I don't know. I'm just going to leave it at that. Well, I go on to the next question. So whatever that meant for you. So what do you mean?
Like in music videos, like back in Britney Spears' heyday, like I would have loved to dance with Britney Spears.
That
That kind of professional dancer. I know. It was so rapid fire that it could have been interpreted many different ways. And my embarrassment over it probably didn't help. Awkward.
Cool. So, just last words of advice for those that are, feeling stuck or just kind of out of whack and just, what's life about type deal.
Yeah. So I think a couple of things. One is it's okay to feel that way. First of all, like don't get down on yourself for being confused or unsure or feeling stuck. Be willing to go for it, whatever go for it means to you. And I know everyone is different. Like when my work life sort of turned, I, had a lot of support. Things were very different, right? Sometimes we feel alone or stuck and it's hard to move, but you can do it. Like even if it's a small step forward, like do something, it will be okay. And then
Let's be in the
I
moment.
have to pick up my kid.
Go ahead. You can pick up the phone if your kid's
It's
calling
an
you.
alarm. It's not. You're not calling me. This is the advice I give myself too: is do alarms for everything. See, we started late.
At least we saw it in action.
I thought I got all my alarms off. I thought we'd be done by now. It's like certainly by noon. I don't need to turn this alarm off. Sorry, everybody.
So funny.
So my advice is set alarms so that you don't have to remember.
Yeah,
things
again,
in
setting
life.
boundaries. Like Romeo, 12 o'clock,
exactly.
gotta go, gotta pick up the kids.
Gotta remember, not even like Romeo gotta go, like gotta remember to pick up a child in a little bit.
But that's a good life tip to
Yeah.
because there's so many things
Yes.
going on, set those reminders.
Yes, that's actually, I had to turn off like 4 alarms that were gonna happen because it's all about like, I don't wanna have to have those things floating in my head. So I set alarms. So sorry everyone for that one. But yeah, so I think we were talking about advice. I think the last one I was going to say is don't forget to put yourself first or equal to the things so that you can, be your best for the other stuff. And if you need 18 alarms every day to remember all the things, that's okay. You're normal if you do that.
Awesome.
I think.
Where can people find you and get your work or just, read your work and all that goodness?
So my blog is getmombalanced.com, so you can find me there. I'm not on Instagram. We were having a conversation.
Yeah, I was like,
on Instagram.
you should, because there are a lot of moms on there that need balance.
I know. Well, I tweet things occasionally.
There you go. Okay, Twitter.
So,
Get Mom Balance.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
And then I'm on Pinterest, but I don't think that really matters.
I don't know.
If you like Pinterest, go to pin
Exactly.
stuff. Come find me on Get Mom Balance. And then a Starbucks in the Bay Area is where you can usually find me. I mean, don't stalk me or anything, but that's honestly where I am most of the time.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you.
It's again an honor and a gift to have you here. And just for those that are listening, don't forget to choose you and take care of you.
Yes.
And just keep on swimming.
Yeah.
Peace.